Hey everyone, welcome back to the realm. I'll be your guide beyond Waking Realm. Today we're diving into the meaning behind the woman who refused to break. The footage you're watching today comes from Death Stranding 2. However, today's narrative dive isn't about Fragile's journey in the sequel. Instead, I want to take us back to where it all began, to the story of Fragile in the original Death Stranding. Because before she became one of the series' most recognizable characters, she was a woman who endured unimaginable pain and still found the strength to keep moving forward. There's a quote from Fragile that has always stayed with me. "I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile." The first time I heard that line, I thought it was simply a clever play on words, a memorable introduction to a mysterious new character. But after finishing Death Stranding, I realized it wasn't just a witty line. It was a declaration. Because over the course of her journey, Fragile will lose years of her life, be betrayed by someone she trusted, carry guilt that was never truly hers to bear, and yet, despite every reason to give up on people, she never stopped believing in them. Today, I want to talk about why I believe Fragile is one of the strongest and perhaps one of the most compassionate characters in Death Stranding. Not because she never broke, but because even after breaking, she still chose kindness. Before the scars. Before we can truly understand Fragile, we first have to understand the woman she was before the scars. Long before she met Sam Porter Bridges, before Higgs, before the timefall that prematurely aged her body, Fragile had already found her purpose. She grew up under the guidance of her father, the founder of Fragile Express. While many children inherit a family business, Fragile inherited something far more valuable. She inherited a philosophy, a belief that even in a fractal world, people are still worth reaching. After the Death Stranding, humanity didn't just lose cities or governments, it lost connection. People became isolated, afraid, and cut off from one another. Yet, while many chose to retreat from the world, Fragile chose to move through it. Every delivery wasn't simply about transporting cargo from one place to another. It was about reminding people that they hadn't been forgotten. That somewhere, someone still cared enough to make the journey. To me, that's what makes Fragile so unique from the very beginning. She never saw herself as like a hero or a leader. She wasn't chasing glory or recognition. She simply believed that bringing people together was worth the risk. Looking back, it's almost heartbreaking, because the very compassion that made Fragile such an extraordinary person would eventually become the very thing someone else would exploit. When compassion becomes a target. Throughout history, one of the cruelest forms of betrayal has never been physical violence. It's when someone learns who you are, understands what you believe, and then uses those very qualities against you. That's exactly what Higgs did to Fragile. At one point, Fragile trusted him. She believed he shared the same goal of reconnecting people and helping rebuild what the Death Stranding had taken away. But while Fragile saw hope, Higgs saw opportunity. He wasn't interested in bringing people together. He wanted to watch the world fall apart. And perhaps the most tragic part of their relationship wasn't simply that Higgs betrayed Fragile. It was that he understood her. He knew exactly what kind of person she was. He knew she would never abandon innocent people. He knew she would always place someone else's life before her own, and instead of admiring those qualities, he weaponized them. That's what makes this betrayal so devastating. Higgs didn't defeat Fragile because she was weak. He exploited her because she was compassionate, and sometimes the kindest people are the easiest to take advantage of. Not because they're naive, but because they choose to believe there's still good in others. Unfortunately for Fragile, Higgs proved that not everyone deserved that trust. The choice that defined her. If there was ever a single moment that defined who Fragile truly was, I believe it was what happened at South Knot City. Higgs presented her with an impossible choice. Transport a nuclear weapon that would destroy an entire city. Or stop it herself. And in that moment, Higgs already believed he knew how the story would end, because he knew exactly what kind of person Fragile was. He knew she would never allow innocent people to die if she had any chance of stopping it, and he was right. Without hesitation, Fragile made her choice. She ran. Through the timefall, through rain that didn't simply make someone wet, but stole years from their life with every passing second. She knew exactly what it would cost her. She knew her body would never be the same again, yet she ran away. And that's what I find so powerful about this moment. Fragile wasn't being fearless, she was afraid. She understood the consequences. She simply decided that saving countless innocent lives mattered more than protecting herself. And when she finally stopped, the woman who emerged wasn't physically the same person who had begun that journey. Her body had aged decades in only a matter of moments, a constant reminder of one decision, one sacrifice, one act of compassion. But perhaps the cruelest part wasn't what the timefall took from her. It was what Higgs tried to take from her afterward. He wanted everyone to believe she was responsible. He wanted to destroy her reputation. To make the very woman who sacrificed everything look like the villain. Imagine carrying that burden, giving up years of your own life to save people, only for the world to question your intentions, and yet, even after all that, Fragile never stopped moving forward. Living with the scars. It's one thing to survive a tragedy. It's another thing to wake up every single day carrying a reminder of it. That's the reality Fragile had to face. Every morning, every delivery, every encounter with another person, she couldn't simply forget what had happened. Her body became a permanent reminder of the sacrifice she made. But if you've ever experienced trauma, then you know the deepest scars are rarely the ones we can see. They're the ones we carry within ourselves. That's something I think Death Stranding portrays beautifully through Fragile. She doesn't pretend everything is okay. She doesn't hide the pain she's endured. She doesn't wake up one day and magically move on. Instead, she learns to live with it. And I think that's an important distinction. Healing doesn't always mean forgetting. Sometimes, healing simply means refusing to let your worst day become your entire identity. That's exactly what Fragile does. Despite the betrayal, despite losing years of her life, despite carrying guilt that was never entirely hers to bear, she continues delivering, she continues helping, she continues believing that people deserve to be connected. To me, that's real strength. Because strength isn't pretending the pain never happened. Strength is acknowledging it, carrying it, and still choosing to move forward. I think that's why Fragile's quote means so much more by the end of the game. I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile. It was never about convincing everyone else. It was about reminding herself that no matter what life had taken from her, it could never take away the person she chose to be. Learning to trust again. After everything Higgs had done, most people would understand if Fragile had chosen to close herself off from the world. Think of it like her villain origin story, right? If she decided people simply weren't worth trusting anymore. But that's never who Fragile was. Then she met Sam Porter Bridges. And what's always fascinated me about their relationship is just how simply they really are. What's always fascinating about their relationship is just how similar they really are. Both of them carry invisible wounds. Both of them have experienced a tremendous loss. Both of them know what it feels like to be isolated from everyone around them. Yet, despite those similarities, they respond to that pain very differently. Sam builds walls. He keeps people at a distance. He convinces himself that if he never gets too close to anyone, then maybe he can't be hurt again. Fragile, on the other hand, continues reaching out. Not because she's forgotten what happened with Higgs. Not because the betrayal no longer hurts. But because she refuses to let one person's actions determine how she'll treat everyone else. And I think that's something incredibly admirable. It would have been so easy for Fragile to become cynical, to believe that trust was a mistake, that kindness only leads to suffering. Instead, she gives Sam something he doesn't even realize he needs. Someone who believes in him. Not because he's a legendary Sam Porter Bridges, but because she sees the man behind the legend. Their relationship isn't built overnight. There's no dramatic speech, no single moments where everything suddenly changes. Instead, trust is earned. One conversation, one delivery, one act of kindness at a time. And I think that that's one of Death Stranding's greatest strengths. It reminds us that trust isn't something we demand, it's something we build. Slowly, patiently, together. By the end of the journey, Sam and Fragile don't just become allies, they become living proof that even after betrayal, even after heartbreak, human connection is still possible. Choosing who she would become. If there was ever a moment that proved just how much Fragile had grown, it wasn't when she stood against Higgs. It was when she finally had the opportunity to end his life. After everything he had done, after betraying her trust, after stealing years from her life, after destroying her reputation, after forcing her to carry pain that would never truly disappear, no one would have blamed Fragile if she had pulled the trigger. In many stories, that's exactly how this ends. The hero gets revenge, the villain dies, justice is served. Hell, even I would have done the same. But Death Stranding has never been interested in telling simple stories. And neither was Fragile. Standing there on the beach, she had every reason to hate Higgs, every reason to make him suffer, every reason to believe that ending his life would finally bring her peace. Yet, in that moment, Fragile realized something. Killing Higgs would have restored the years the Timefall had taken from her. Did I say would have? Wouldn't. Killing Higgs wouldn't restore the Higgs the Timefall had taken from her. It wouldn't erase the betrayal. It wouldn't silence the guilt she had carried for so long. And it certainly wouldn't make her whole again. So instead, she walked away. I don't see that as weakness. I don't even see it as mercy. I see it as freedom. Because the moment Fragile chose not to let revenge consume her. Higgs lost the last bit of power he ever had over her. He could scar her body. He could betray her trust. He could try to destroy her name. But if he could never decide the kind of person she would become, that choice always belonged to Fragile. And in the end, she chose compassion over hatred, not because Higgs deserved it, but because she refused to let him take one final thing from her, her humanity. When we first meet Fragile, her words almost come across as playful. I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile. At first, it sounds like a clever introduction, a memorable line from a mysterious courier. But after witnessing everything she endured, that line takes on an entirely different meaning. Fragile wasn't defined by the years the Timefall stole from her. She wasn't defined by Higgs' betrayal. She wasn't defined by the guilt she carried or the pain she was forced to live with. Instead, she chose to define herself by the kindness she continued to show others. To me, that's what makes Fragile such an unforgettable character. Not because she was fearless, not because she was invincible, but because she proved that true strength isn't measured by how much pain you can endure, is measured by who you choose to become after you endured it. Throughout Death Stranding, we watch Fragile lose so much. She loses years of her life. She loses someone she once trusted. She loses her reputation. Yet despite all of that, she never loses herself. And I think that's a lesson that extends far beyond Death Stranding. Life has a way of testing all of us. Sometimes we'll be betrayed. Sometimes we'll carry scars that no one else can see. Sometimes we'll wonder if it's even worth opening our hearts again. Fragile reminds us that our hardships don't have to decide our future. No matter what we've lost, no matter what we've been through, we still have one choice that no one can ever take away from us. The choice of who we become. That's why, to me, Fragile isn't one of Death Stranding's strongest characters because she survived unmanageable hardships. She's one of its strongest characters because even after everything she'd been through, she still chose hope. She still chose compassion. She still chose to connect people. And perhaps that's what she meant all along when she said, I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile. And if you connected with this, I've set up a small Ko-fi page tied to the channel. No pressure at all. It's just there for anyone who wants to support what I'm building here. Until next time, peace.